Hello.
Hi. So you can all hear me with this microphone. Okay, great. So hopefully this will work. Yes. So this is me, Angela Henderson. I'm a nutritional therapist registered with, as you just mentioned, the British Association for Nutrition and Lifestyle Medicine, BANT for short. I've been working as a health and lifestyle coach for about the last 5 years, and then embarked on a degree course to become a nutritional therapist, which I qualified in last year. I have a special interest in Parkinson's because one of my greatest friends in Hertford was diagnosed with Parkinson's 4 years ago, and she came to my partner and myself because she decided, it's a long story, but she'd seen how her children had benefited from nutritional therapy in the past, and she decided she wanted to go down the non-medical route, so to manage her symptoms without medication, which is obviously a personal choice, and she introduced us then to the group, the Working Age Parkinson's group, which is kind of based around Hertford. So my partner and I have given various talks to them, and I'm working with a few of them on an individual one-to-one basis. I do work with other clients besides people with Parkinson's, but Parkinson's is a special interest for me because I've seen how people respond in very clear ways to nutritional interventions and lifestyle interventions. So I also work, this is my partner at the bottom, David. He's a lifestyle coach, a nutrition and lifestyle coach, and has been in that industry for about 20 years. We also work with Ray Griffiths, who's written this absolutely astounding book on, I don't expect you to read it because it's very biochemical and not an easy read for the layperson, but most of my work with people with Parkinson's is kind of distilled from that book and from his book on mitochondria. At least I work with the same research that he's worked with, and I work with him alongside him when I'm seeing Parkinson's clients. So I'm going to whiz through these slides. It's a kind of whistle-stop tour through what you can do nutritionally to help manage your symptoms. But it's really a distillation of a course that I'm going to be running in June and July, a 6-week course, which I'll talk about later on. And so this talk is really based on the framework of that course. And I'll just touch briefly on each pillar of the framework now, but I won't have time to go into much detail on any one topic. So I hope you'll forgive me for that. So a bit of audience participation here. I would like you to, have you got something to write with and on? If not, maybe just make a mental note of 2 things after the end of this talk that you want to change. The 2 things that stand out to you as something you could do in your life and the way you eat that you might be able to change or make a start on changing. And I'd like you to think about one thing that you didn't know before that you might like to share with us. So with a Parkinson's diagnosis, that is really just the beginning. a Parkinson's diagnosis doesn't tell you very much about you as an individual. And it's a starting point. We really want to know, besides the possibility or fact that you have some damage to the neurons in your brain that make dopamine, and therefore you're not making enough dopamine, and therefore you're being treated with the precursor to dopamine, L-DOPA, or levodopa. That is the sort of top level treatment, but to really treat you as an individual, we need to know what's going on with you personally, and everybody is different. I, just as an example, have two recent clients with Parkinson's. One, his symptoms we discovered, or we delved deeply into his whole health picture, which involved a 4-page questionnaire and then an hour and a half initial consultation, and then I saw him over a period of 12 weeks, really delving down into what it was for him specifically that was causing his some of his symptoms. So for him, it was severe blood sugar dips, which, so you've probably heard of the term hypo. He'd had low blood sugar, and low blood sugar can materialize as the shakes. There are connections between all these things and dopamine. So I'm not saying dopamine isn't an issue, but everything is connected in the body. So you have to look at everything that is going on in order to help a person. These shaking episodes had actually been diagnosed with him as seizures, and he was on seizure medication, but I realised it was more to do with blood sugar dips. And then a second person who has Gilbert's syndrome, which means that her detoxification pathways were not dealing with dopamine effectively, which then meant that there was a build-up of dopamine, which was then causing damage, because too much dopamine can cause damage to your dopaminergic neurons, the neurons that make dopamine. So, and also she had issues with her gut microbiome, her gut health. So two individuals, both with Parkinson's, but both so different. So today I'm just going to focus on 5 pillars, which are the 5 pillars of my course in June and July. So regulating your digestion and getting your gut moving, for anybody who suffers from constipation, tackling energy dips, helping your liver to detoxify, easing stress and anxiety and improving mental clarity, and combating free radical neuronal damage and inflammation. So first of all, regulating digestion. Here I would love you to tell me what you think food does for you. Shout out.
Gives you energy.
Gives you energy, yes. Anything else? Does it do anything?
Enjoyment.
Enjoyment, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we love our food. Yes.
Yeah, it helps to build all the structures in your body.
Absolutely, yeah. So building the structures in your body, your bones, your muscles, your cells, yeah.
Anything else?
In the mornings, you need some food to get you going.
Yes. Yeah, so it's keeping you going in the morning, giving you energy, yeah. Absolutely.
De-stress.
De-stress? Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah, so some foods can make you more stressed and some foods can help calm you. That's, yeah.
It's a pattern to the day by giving you meal times.
Yes, I like that. That's good. So if you didn't hear, gives you a pattern to your day by having structured meal times. Yeah. And your body expects that then, when you have that pattern. Okay. I wonder if we can turn the lights off, could we? Yeah, sorry. Thanks. So, this, you're all right, you're all correct, but this is what food is doing in the body. This is a chart that shows all the reactions that are going on every single second in your body, and those reactions will not happen without food. So you've got 15,000 enzymes working. I mean, we think of enzymes as breaking down food, don't we? But there are 15,000 enzymes in the body doing different things, all doing different things. 30 quadrillion chemical reactions every single second. And how big is 30 quadrillion? It would take you 1,000 billion years to count to 30 quadrillion.
Oh, is that all?
So that's a lot of reactions. This is a close-up of that chart. So all the things in blue are enzymes, all doing different jobs. And those enzymes mostly are reliant on vitamins or minerals or other cofactors that we get in food. Some of these enzymes the body can make itself, but it can't make them without the building blocks, without the basics. So, for instance, this is the energy cycle, which you've mentioned, that we make energy from food. This is what happens when we're making, you can't really see it, but this is what happens when we're making energy. So you see the circle at the bottom. Each step of that pathway needs different vitamins and minerals, like B vitamins, magnesium, calcium, iron, biotin, and many more. So for all those pathways to work properly, and also to compensate for genetic variations where things perhaps don't work so well, and they need to find another pathway to compensate for that, every step of that, the digestive system, from chew to poo, has to be working effectively in order for us to extract all the nutrients from our food to power those reactions. Otherwise, something will be compromised and something will be going wrong. So breaking down, you need to break down your food, then you need to extract the vitamins and minerals, we need to absorb it through the gut lining, and then we need to change those substances into other substances, and then those substances need to be used, and then we need to eliminate and detoxify what's left. So this is just a picture of where everything is absorbed. I won't go into that because you can't really see it, but all the vitamins and minerals are absorbed in different places in the intestinal tract. So if you've got inflammation, let's say, in your intestines, then that's going to prevent you from absorbing things properly. That's just one example of where something can go wrong. So the first stage is the mouth, and the mouth releases saliva, which then breaks down mostly carbohydrates, little bit of fat, but mostly carbohydrates. And if that's not working properly, perhaps we're not chewing enough. We need to chew to make sure that everything is broken down as much as possible before it goes into our stomach. Who here knows that you don't chew very well? Yeah. And then you've got your stomach, so the food goes down into your stomach. And we need to produce stomach acid for the food to be digested properly. And a lot of people, or doctors even, think of stomach acid as not a very good thing. If you get acid reflux into your mouth, that's not very nice and shouldn't be happening, admittedly. But conversely, if you don't have enough acidity in your stomach, then that's not going to break down the food very well. And to encourage your stomach acid, you can have some bitter leaves before a meal, 15 minutes before a meal, to just get those juices going. Or you can buy drops, bitter drops, to do the same job. The next thing that happens is digestive enzymes come to help further digest and break down. If we're not producing enough enzymes and that's going slightly awry, we can actually take digestive enzymes in capsule form to help that. And then you've got your gallbladder, which deals with fat digestion. If that's not working properly, or if you don't have a gallbladder because it's been operated out, then we can use bile salts and help the microbiome to deal with bile and not to use it too much and steal it from you. The next thing is the liver. So the liver then has to detoxify. And how do we help the liver? Well, I'll go into that later, but you can give plant nutrients and micronutrients and also protein, but I'll go into that in a bit. And then you've got your microbiome. So we have 100 trillion gut bacteria that are actually, most of them are very useful, and they help to break down the food, and they also make B vitamins for us and vitamin K for us. So you want your microbiome to be nice and balanced and not to have too many unbeneficial bacteria. And to rebalance the microbiome, which is actually quite a significant part of Parkinson's. We can give probiotics, which are gut bacteria that you can take in capsule form, and you can also give prebiotics. So you focus on foods that feed the good bacteria, basically fibre. But fibre in vegetables and not in all bran for breakfast. And then you've got to get rid of what's left. And if that's not working properly, then you can focus on certain foods to help with constipation. Again, fibre, and also make sure that you're drinking enough throughout the day. So here's a little crib sheet for you. What can you do if you have constipation? One thing that works really well for my clients, I've found, is eating 2 whole kiwis a day. Who likes kiwis? Yeah. Yeah, so that's one great tip for you. Otherwise, rhubarb is known to push things through. Stewed apple, you can eat it with cinnamon to have additional benefits. Flax seeds, and a superfood salad, and green bananas. So green bananas are not so easy to digest for us, but our gut bacteria, our good gut bacteria, absolutely love green bananas. So that's one thing that you can eat if you want to help your gut microbiome. If you have a phone and you'd like a recipe, this superfood salad is a great one for, well, just general health, but if you eat some of this every day, it helps to move things through. If you have a camera on your mobile phone, you can point it at that now and it will take you to the recipe.
And can you send us your slides afterwards as well?
Yes, sure. Yeah.
Does alcohol impinge on that system?
Yes, alcohol does have a big effect, yeah. it changes the microbiome, and it also makes your gut lining more permeable. So then it allows toxins to get through and undigested proteins and other things to get through your gut lining into your bloodstream, which will then put more pressure on your liver and can also do damage to the brain and other parts of the body, and cause inflammation, which is quite a big factor in a lot of chronic diseases.
Apart from that, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah, other than that, it's fine. Okay, are you, no, you're still,
But haven't they taken a picture of it? What did you do then?
if some cameras don't work this way, but a lot of cameras on your phone will give you a link. It'll scan the code and it'll give you a link to then press on. But I will send you the slides, so don't worry too much about it now. Am I okay to move on?
Yeah.
So the next area is tackling those energy dips. And this is really to do with blood sugar. There are other reasons for energy dips, but this is a major one. So what you want when you eat is for your blood sugar to fluctuate in a nice even way. So you don't want big bursts of blood sugar or glucose and then a big crash, because the big crash is where you suddenly feel tired and you want to lie down on the sofa or go to bed. So the things that cause a big blood sugar spike are the unhelpful carbs. So these are the refined carbohydrates, which I'll talk about on the next slide. The things that keep your blood sugar in a nice even fluctuation are foods with fibre, helpful carbohydrates, vegetables, berries, some fruits. So if you're getting more glucose, a high glycemic index food, then it's best to have that with, well, it's best not to have it at all, but it's best to have it with fibre, so that slows down the release of glucose into your blood. And what happens when you release glucose into your blood is that the hormone insulin comes, because it's not good to have a lot of glucose in your blood, because it can cause damage to your cells and to your neurons. So insulin has the role of grabbing that glucose and pulling it into the cells. So, yeah, clear off. We want to grab you and pull it into the cell. If you have too much glucose and that can't then be turned into energy, because there's only so much your mitochondria can do to turn it into energy. If there's too much of it, then it will turn into fat, and it will also cause damage to the mitochondria and to the cells. So this is what you don't want to eat.
Oh.
Cries of disappointment there.
No chips.
Yeah, I mean, all these things are okay in moderation, but a lot of people are probably having several of these a day, which is then going to make your blood sugar do that instead of that.
Bread. Should you not have bread?
Well, actually, bread is one of those things that breaks down into glucose. Yeah.
So no chips and no bread.
Chips are not so good for other reasons as well, because usually they'll be cooked in an oil that is unstable and therefore will cause damage. So what is a balanced diet? Is it this? Meat, veg, potatoes? You've got your protein, you've got your fats, you've got your carbohydrates. No. So this is more like a balanced diet. So you've got 40% vegetables and you've got 10% fruit. All of this should be unprocessed, by the way. You've got a small amount of grains, but they should be whole grains. And preferably gluten-free. I won't go into detail now about gluten, but gluten is a protein in bread that basically makes your gut lining more permeable, and it does the same thing as alcohol that I was talking about a minute ago. And concentrated nutrients. So you want to get as many herbs and spices into your diet as possible as well. And then you've got protein, so 25% protein there. Now, the third area is helping your liver to detox. And we are bombarded by toxins all day, every day. You know, toxins are in the carpets, they're in the furniture, they're in the air pollution. We've also got toxins being made by unhelpful gut bacteria. And so what can you do to help your liver to deal with all those toxins? Well, avoid being exposed to them. So even perfume or those things that you plug into the wall to make the room smell nicer, those are full of chemicals that will just put your liver under greater pressure. So really try to have as natural an environment as possible to be kind to your liver. And then in terms of the gut bacteria making toxins, well, we can support the microbiome and encourage the good bacteria rather than the bad ones. And this is a little diagram of the liver and what it does and the things that it needs to help it to detoxify. So I won't read this slide off to you, but you can see there that there are a lot of nutrients involved, a lot of vitamins and protein. In phase 2, all those things, N-acetylcysteine, glycine, taurine, they're all amino acids which are building blocks for protein. So this is why it's really important to make sure that we get enough protein in our diets. And the fourth area is easing anxiety and improving mental clarity. So this is really about how food affects your mood. If you have nutrient deficiencies, then that makes you more likely to have to suffer from fluctuating moods. So you want to have enough vitamin D, because vitamin D is associated with depression and inflammation in the brain. If you have low tyrosine and B vitamins and zinc and magnesium, that can also affect your brain and your mood. You want to really be having a Mediterranean diet. So what does that mean? It means having plenty of olive oil and, I would say, extra virgin, cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, because anything else you really don't know whether it's genuine. Even the big names, I have to say. And omega-3 fats, who knows where you get omega-3 fats from? Fish, yeah. What kind of? Oily fish, yeah, very good, top notch. And really you want to be having as little processed food as possible. In the UK, we have 52% of our food comes from ultra-processed foods, and we're the worst in Europe. I know we're not part of Europe anymore, but we are the worst in Europe for that. I'm sure everybody here is nowhere near that bad. And then your blood sugar balance, which I've already talked about, which can increase cortisol, which is the stress hormone. So obviously that will affect your mood. Healthy gut bacteria and liver, which I've already touched on. And hormonal disturbances can also affect the mood, so estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, etc., and then your thyroid hormones, and the things we can do nutritionally to support those as well, and your central nervous system. So you've got two neurotransmitters, GABA and glutamate. Glutamate is the excitatory transmitter, and GABA is the calming neurotransmitter. And you want to have a nice balance between those two. So if you've got too much glutamate being made, then that's going to make you anxious. So you want to really have foods that will encourage GABA production. And there are certain herbs that do that. So ashwagandha, lemon balm, and saffron are 3 of those, but there are lots of others. And then other factors like sleep. Sleep is so important for mood, and homocysteine. So homocysteine is a molecule that in the blood that can affect your brain. And if you don't have enough B vitamins, then you get more of this homocysteine that then causes damage and inflammation in the brain. So, speaking of which, combating your damage and inflammation. So, the things that, mitochondria. Who's heard of mitochondria? Yeah, a few people. Well, mitochondria, if you did biology at school, you would have heard of mitochondria as being the powerhouses of the cells. But that's not all they do. They are responsible for nerve repair. And the mitochondria, while they're making energy for us from food, they are not able to repair the nerves. So you need to give them a break. They'll do that in sleep, but also during the day. And also if you're not overloading them with these high energy foods, like on that previous slide with all the cakes and bread and sweet things. So those kinds of foods overload the mitochondria and then make it very difficult for them to regenerate themselves, but also to go and repair the neurons. I've got a little film here, which I hope will work. So what we're going to see is the mitochondria. It's a very, very microscopic film of the mitochondria moving through the nerve fibrils and going to the place where they need to. So it's like they're driving to work to perform their daily functions. So can you see them moving along the fibres?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But they won't do that if they're bogged down with producing energy or regenerating themselves because they've been overloaded. Okay. And when mitochondria are overloaded, they produce things called free radicals, which damage themselves. They damage the mitochondria, but they also damage the cells in general. And this is called oxidative stress. So how does this happen? It happens in the process of turning food into energy. It also happens as a result of environmental toxicants, like rotenone, which is sprayed on crops, and has been identified as one cause of Parkinson's. We've got other toxins which I've spoken about from the gut bacteria, from ultra-processed food, and disrupted breakdown of dopamine itself. So when dopamine is not dealt with properly after it's been used, or if it's hanging around in the neurons too much, too long, then that can cause damage to the neurons itself, to the dopamine neurons. But there are things in food that will stop that damage from happening. And then you've got activation of immune cells in the brain, which can also cause damage. So here's a pop quiz.
Hello? Are there still spraying maybe along the crops?
I don't believe they are spraying it now in this, no, not in this country, but it's certainly in other countries still, yeah.
It's a bit frightening.
Yeah. So, which of these oils or fats, what do you think?
Sunflower.
Sunflower oil? Anyone else think anything differently? Different? Butter? Yeah, no, the answer is sunflower oil, because sunflower oil is one of those polyunsaturates that is actually unstable and can cause oxidation, oxidative stress. So it oxidizes very easily. So I would say, if you have sunflower oil or anything that's called vegetable oil in your kitchen, throw it out when you get home. And instead use butter. If you're not dairy intolerant, then use butter, or olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, or coconut oil. Anybody know which of those has the highest smoke point when you're cooking? Coconut. So this is a picture of the process. Am I okay for time? So in the process of turning protein into dopamine and then dealing with the dopamine after it's been used, there are places where this oxidation can occur, and that's where you need to put in antioxidants to deal with that process. I won't go into detail because it is it would take me 10 minutes to go through this slide properly. And we have antioxidants in the food, but we can also make antioxidants, very powerful antioxidants like glutathione in the body. But again, you need the building blocks to make that. So this is just what happens if you have too many oxidative stress components and not enough antioxidants. So it tips the balance. Some free radicals are useful because they can deal with pathogens or parasites, that kind of thing. But you don't want too many of them because then it will start attacking your own body and your own cells. So where do we get antioxidants from in the diet? Well, there are various vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin A, and vitamin E is another one. I'm just going to use this as a quick example. So these are the things that vitamin E does. It helps with peripheral neuropathy, or it prevents, if you don't have enough vitamin E in the diet, these are the problems that can be caused. So retinopathy, which is damage to the retina in your eye, immune dysfunction, because vitamin E plays an important role in the immune system, and muscle weakness. And these are the foods that you can find vitamin E in. So sunflower seeds, almonds, avocados, spinach, butternut squash, kiwi fruit, broccoli, trout, olive oil, and shrimp. But just to get the minimal amount, not optimal, but just the minimum amount, you would need to eat 1 avocado, 1 cup of spinach, 1 fillet of trout, half a cup of broccoli, a tablespoon of olive oil, and 1 cup of kiwi in one day to get enough. But even that is just the sort of minimal wage nutrition, subsistence wage nutrition, which is fairly arbitrary, and the body will use vitamin E for more complex things the more you have. So that's why I often recommend that people have a multivitamin, because taking one vitamin is flawed as well. So it's all about synergy and how the vitamins all work together. And this is why. So you have a free radical, let's say from unsaturated fat. Vitamin E comes in to the rescue. But then when an antioxidant deals with a free radical, it then becomes an antioxidant, a free radical itself. So then, because it donates an electron, for those who are scientifically minded, the antioxidant donates an electron to the free radical. But then because it's missing an electron itself, it becomes a free radical itself. So then it needs another antioxidant to come to the rescue. And vitamin C, CoQ10 and glutathione, GSH, then rescue the vitamin E. But then they themselves become free radicals, and lipoic acid then comes to the rescue, to rescue them. And what rescues lipoic acid? Well, that's NADH, which is made in that energy production cycle. So as long as you're eating, you'll have the complete picture. But you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if any of these are missing, then you're going to be making more oxidation in your body. And we can trigger our own cells to make antioxidants, but they need help from food. There are certain polyphenols, certain ingredients in plants, not vitamins, not minerals, but other things, other chemicals, that then can talk to our cells and have a sort of domino effect. So then you get the sort of, you just put one small amount of the polyphenol, and then that triggers a domino reaction throughout your body and makes lots of these antioxidants, these powerful antioxidants. Medicinal mushrooms also play a role, and so the lesson from this is really to eat the rainbow and eat as many different coloured foods, vegetables, and just to a lesser extent fruit. You don't want too much fruit because then that's giving you more sugar and putting your liver under more pressure. So that is a whistle-stop tour through, and I'm sorry it's taken a bit longer than expected, but I hope you gained something from it. I asked you at the beginning to remember one thing, or two things, was it, that you would like to change. Any offers? Anybody like to share any ideas of things that you would like to change?
I don't like vegetables.
You don't like vegetables?
What am I going to do?
Well, in that case, you maybe try introducing one or two at a time. But if you really don't want to eat vegetables, then I would say you need to have a multivitamin and more than just vitamins. There are polyphenols that you can take that you would find in vegetables otherwise. Anything else? Yes.
Well, I'll check what oils I've got in my cupboard.
Excellent.
And I'll make sure I have 2 slices of lemon in my gin and tonic.
Yeah. And then eat the lemon slices afterwards.
Right.
Yeah. Including the peel, because there are a lot of really helpful polyphenols in lemon peel. Yeah. Anyone else?
Chew a few.
Chew, yeah.
Be like a train.
What should I use for frying fat?
Well, you can use butter if you're not doing it very hot, or olive oil, or coconut oil, or avocado oil, because avocado oil has a high smoke point, but it's quite expensive.
What about cold pressed rapeseed oil? I've been told is okay.
See, rapeseed oil is one of those vegetable oils. So I usually tell people to steer clear of it, even though it has, a fair amount of omega-3s.
Even if it's cold pressed.
It's probably better if it's cold pressed. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I've switched to recently.
Right.
Sunflower oil.
Yeah.
Well, some people say, I can't afford that. It's too much time.
Yeah.
Not that everything. Can't afford it.
Yeah.
Oh, you have it's so much time. I've got time around looking with chopping plates.
Do you have a slow cooker? So this gentleman is saying that it takes too much time to prepare a proper meal, a good meal. But if you do have a little bit of time at the weekend, say, and you have a slow cooker, then you can batch cook. And I think that's probably one of the best things you can do, is to batch cook some really good stews with meat and vegetables and herbs and spices, and then freeze it so that you're not eating the same thing all the time, but you've got different things in the freezer that you can take out. Does that help?
Yeah.
I want to ask you about over-medication. Are you
Over-medication.
saying that there's too much dopamine being produced as a result of over-medication?
That's a difficult one, because I'm not allowed to contradict what your own healthcare professionals are telling you. But I would say if you're taking L-Dopa, that is something that happens naturally in the process of turning L-Dopa into dopamine, and oxidation does happen. And so you need to make sure that in your diet, and maybe through supplements, you are getting antioxidants, but a range of antioxidants. So you don't want to just take vitamin C or just vitamin E, because of what I was saying earlier about them becoming free radicals themselves. Does that help?
You just spoke about your clients with Parkinson's. Are they controlling their Parkinson's without medication?
No. Most of my clients are on medication. Yeah. So I've just got so the 5 pillars in my course, they are the same as the ones I've touched on today, and this is basically 6 weeks of learning, but in a community. And we have workshops once a week. I give you practical tips and coaching, and then we share recipes, we share the results of trying out the new recipes, lifestyle advice and tips, a weekly lunchtime Zoom, and then the recordings will be available for you on YouTube. And that's the price, and I'm doing a special discount today and for the next 2 days. If anybody would like to join us this summer on that one.
So can you just tell us a bit more? Is it in Hartford?
It's online, but I was actually going to ask. I was going to ask whether anybody would be interested in an in-person one, a weekly workshop in person. And you can come talk to me afterwards if you think that would be of interest. So normally it would be online, but I would be happy to run a group for people.
So 6 weeks for an hour online, is it? Or
Yeah, 6 weeks. But then in between the online, there'll be the sort of communication between the community on WhatsApp and on the Facebook group. And, I'm here for anybody to ask me questions, not here, but so we will have a WhatsApp group, and any questions or can be put in there or in the Facebook group that will be made just for that group. Any more questions before we've got 5 minutes before? Yes.
Is there any way of finding out what your deficiency might be, which has been like you or
So, yeah, is there any way of finding out what your deficiencies might be? There are, I mean, sometimes you can tell from symptoms and what's going on. There are tests you can do for certain nutrients, but you know, some of the tests don't tell you, they only tell you what's in the bloodstream. Thanks. Is that better? Oh, yeah, some of those tests tell you what's in the bloodstream, but they don't tell you what's in the cells. But yeah, some of the tests are useful and others are not quite so useful, but most of us, most people in the Western world are deficient in most nutrients because the nutrients just aren't in the food anymore. You know, they're grown in soil that is depleted of nutrients because it's been fed the NPK fertilizers for decades, nitrogen, potassium, phosphate fertilizers. So all the other nutrients that the plants should be getting from the soil just aren't there, they're not in the soil. Added to which the food is transported many miles across the globe, and the longer it's transported and the longer it's stored, the less nutrients, the lower the nutrient value. So there was a paper that came out in JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association, that concluded that everybody should be on a multivitamin and mineral because of the state of the food these days.
Because they often say, well, as long as you're eating a well-balanced diet, you don't need to take multivitamins.
There is a bit of a battle going on because I don't really want to go on record on this, but the pharmaceutical companies do not want us to be taking vitamins and minerals. And they have the media, on side with that. So you'll often get media reports saying that vitamins are a waste of money and they're just expensive urine. But some of the papers are actually fraudulent, and some of them are paid for by pharmaceutical companies. So there's a lot of, it's a big discussion, but yeah.
Interesting.
And also, some studies are done, like there was a big study with vitamin E that was done on smokers, and they found that vitamin E they actually concluded that vitamin E was dangerous. It was a study that was actually designed to fail, and for the reasons I've explained, you can't just give vitamin E because of the synergy that's involved and because of the vitamin E becoming a free radical when it meets a free radical. Does that help? Yeah. Any more questions? Yes.
Any particular foods for thin hair or a little mix you get on your fingertips? What would you recommend?
Yeah, well, you need minerals and you need plenty of protein. Your hair is mostly made from keratin, which is a protein, so make sure that you've got enough healthy, good, unprocessed proteins in your diet. And zinc is another one that's good for nails. Just a wide range of foods, because biotin is very important as well for hair. But I would also look at the microbiome, because inflammation can make your hair fall out, and There are a lot of reasons behind hair falling out. The liver, if the liver isn't functioning very well, or if the liver is under pressure, then that can also make your hair thinner and not so healthy. So really it's a holistic approach. You need to make sure that you're digesting properly, make sure that your microbiome is healthy, make sure that your liver is supported, and that you have enough protein, and you have all those vitamins and minerals and polyphenols that support the liver as well. Anyone else?
Food bank. So what foods should we be putting in the food bank? What
foods to put in food banks? Yes, obviously you can't really put fresh veg in. Is that right? Because it would go off too quickly. I would say what not to put in is those ones on that slide with the sort of easy energy foods. So things like whole grains, quinoa is a great thing. I mean, people might look at a bag of quinoa and say, what on earth is this? What can I do with this? So it's partly education that food banks need. But whole grains rather than highly processed grains. So brown rice is better than white rice. Quinoa is better than rice, because quinoa. Who's had quinoa? Yeah. Oh, quite a lot of you then. Yeah. So quinoa is a complete protein. It's got all the amino acids that we need. Whereas things like rice and other grains are incomplete proteins. So then you have to pair them with other things. So going back to your question, tins of beans are very healthy. They're a good source of protein, and they not baked beans, because baked beans contain sugar. The sauce contains sugar. Okay. Yeah.
Have you any guide to probiotics? There seems to be such a lot of them.
Yeah.
What should you be looking at?
Yeah, well, two really good, helpful probiotics that do a lot of jobs are Lactobacillus rhamnosus and Bifidobacterium lactis, BB12. So if you find a product, I actually sell, I recommend that one. I recommend the product to a lot of my clients with just those two in it, because they encourage your healthy bacteria. So they're friendly towards your healthy bacteria that are already in your gut, and they help them to proliferate, and while at the same time discouraging the ones that aren't very healthy. And the other thing that they do is to help repair your gut lining if that's become a little bit leaky or a bit permeable, more permeable than it should be. So that's a really good starting point. And then it's a good idea to chop and change, but then that's more of an individual thing. And what I like to do with my clients is to do a comprehensive stool test, which is fairly expensive. It's about £350, but it looks at 120 analytes in your gut, in your stool, and tells you what the makeup of your microbiome is. So it tells you what your gut bacteria are, and how many of the good ones you've got and how many of the bad ones, or what proportions, I should say, not. Somebody mentioned yogurt. Yes, there are some probiotic yogurts, and they're helpful as long as they don't have sugar in, because you're trying to avoid sugar. A lot of them do have sugar in, but you can get plain live yogurts. Yeah. Yeah, so there's a thing called Yakult, which springs to mind, but it's full of sugar, so I wouldn't recommend that. So really, yeah, go for the sugar-free versions. Another thing I should say is natural yogurt. Don't be taken in by the low-fat myth. So things with low fat will very often have more sugar in them. And dietary fat doesn't make you fat. It's sugar that makes you put on weight. So if you have a low-fat yogurt, they'll put extra starch in to make it thicker, and they'll put more sugar in to make it more palatable, because as humans we're naturally attracted to fat because we need it. And there are some vitamins that are absorbed through fat, so we need to have those fat-soluble vitamins. If we're not getting enough fat in the diet, then we won't be absorbing vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Those come with fat. So by the same token, I would also drink full-fat milk, because if you have less fat, then you've got more of the milk sugars and fewer of the fat-soluble vitamins. Okay, yes?
Are we saying we should avoid fruits and vegetables uncut a long distance? And getting fruit from Chile, which seems ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous how far things travel. I mean, you have to find a happy medium. I'd avoid things just because they've travelled a long way. I would, the most important thing is to get a wide range of fruits and vegetables, and really focus on vegetables rather than fruits, because fruits have fructose, which is the fruit sugar, and fructose is metabolized only in the liver. And so that's another thing that puts pressure on the liver. So you get this thing called fatty liver disease, which alcoholics get, alcoholic fatty liver disease. But now, very prevalent disease in our society is non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And that's mainly because of all the high fructose things that we are eating in processed food. But also, if you were eating fruit all day and nothing else, then that would be really putting pressure on your liver.
There was a slide, I think you jumped over because you're conscious of time, but it said takeaway.
Takeaway tips, yeah, I can go back to that. Yes.
How important is it to eat organic food, or are there certain types of foods which you should stick to?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last bit.
Or is it that you can eat ordinary food, but there are certain types of food which you should have organic?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to get as much organic food as possible, because you're then putting less pressure on your liver. But there's a thing called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. And so if you focus on the Clean 15 as your non-organic foods, and then the Dirty Dozen, focus on getting those organic where possible. I'll see if I can find the list, because I don't know those off the top of my head. Oh. It's not showing on my screen, so I'll have to do it on mine. Talk amongst yourselves. Actually,
Shall we actually finish off and then you can
Yeah.
find that off and give it to the gentleman next?
Yes.
so I'll just say that we'll close the meeting now, and Angela can search for that list and give it to you afterwards. And yes, thank you very much. That was very interesting, food for thought, and I'm sure you'll get lots of questions if you want as well. But yeah, I'll hang around if anybody wants to talk to me. Actually, yeah. Thank you, Angela, very much for coming. Yes. Thank you very much.
Before you all disappear, obviously stay and ask some questions. Ruth seems to have gone terribly shy. I thought she might come and talk to you. She's got 2 lovely activities here. You can get the details from her. There is lunch. Don't forget there's lunch tomorrow week, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, yes. But I enjoy Ruth's lunches. Anyway, the next one after that, on the 26th of May, is at the Little Hay Golf Complex. That generally goes very well. It's a nice venue, and the food is good. And also, Ruth has organised another canal trip. Now, that goes very well. I've done them, but unfortunately I can't do this one because I'm on holiday. But that is on the 23rd of June. So if you are interested, please come and badger Ruth for the information.
Sooner rather than later, because I'm limited.
That is so good, Ruth. That's what it's all to.
Sooner rather than later, because I'm limited in numbers.
Right, well there you are then. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's it, chaps.
That's it. It's all folks.